Hello, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be making a 1950s skirt out of a tablecloth from the thrift store. I've made a lot of the clothing in my closet out of sheets or tablecloths or curtains. The dress I'm wearing, for example, used to be a bed sheet, so I thought it would be fun to show you how I'm going to be making a skirt out of this beautiful tablecloth. It's 100% cotton, made in Italy, and I found it at the thrift store for only about $3. The piece of clothing I'm taking inspiration from is this 1950s skirt pattern. It's not going to be exactly like this skirt because I'm going to be making some alterations to make it suit my style a little bit more. So without further ado, let's get into making this upcycled 1950s style skirt. I've actually already got the pattern pieces for the skirt cut out and ready to sew together, but I'm going to show you a drawing of what I have planned just so that you have an idea of what we're making. So because this is a 1950s skirt, it's of course going to have the sort of flared silhouette, but there wasn't quite enough fabric in the tablecloth for me to make an entire circle skirt, so it's more like a half circle skirt or a 3/4 circle skirt. So there's the main skirt, and then there will be a waistband, so this part is relatively simple, but then I'd like there to be a pinafore that's removable. So something like that. I've drawn a little bit of the arms just so that you can see sort of how everything will come together. Then in the back it'll just be crossing straps, and the front and the back will button to the waistband. So that's the plan. Let's just get right into the sewing. Alright, so here are the pieces that I have. I have 4 pieces like this. These are skirt panels, sort of like a triangle with a rounded bottom and the top point cut off. Now this skirt has 4 panels. To create the shape for this, you're going to want to take your waist measurement and divide it by 4, and then add some seam allowance for this top measurement here. And of course the length is up to you. I believe I went with 26 inches and then added probably around ½ an inch of seam allowance. Now because I have this plaid here, I wanted to cut it in a way so that it was symmetrical. This really helps you get your skirt looking nice and balanced if you do have an uneven fabric like plaid. So to attach the different skirt panels, I'm going to be doing what's called a French seam. So usually you would put them right sides together, sew along one side, and then flip it right side out. But with a French seam, you sew it wrong sides together, then flip it the other way so that it's right sides together, and then sew it again. This makes it so that your skirt is clean on the outside and doesn't have any fraying edges on the inside. So I'm just gonna go right ahead with my sewing machine and do some French seams to sew together all of the skirt panels. Alrighty, so after sewing the panels together, I've left it totally open, so I didn't finish the final seam, but that is what we want. Here is the inside. You can see that there are no fraying edges, which is something so wonderful about the French seam, is it allows you to have a clean inside without needing to do lining or felling, and felling takes forever. So now I'm gonna see how this fits around my waist. Alright, there's quite a bit of extra, but that is what we want. It is a little bit too much extra, so I'm going to trim a little bit off of each edge. But then actually what we're gonna do, instead of attaching this closed, I'm actually going to hem both of the edges of the opening, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do from there. Okay, I've hemmed these open edges, and now the plan for the back of this skirt, it's gonna overlap like that, and I'm going to do a little whippet stitch down the edge, but leaving a section here so that it's sort of like a built-in placket so that it's overlapping. If that makes any sense. I don't know if I explained that super poorly, but basically I'm going to leave an opening so that you can get into the skirt, but sew the rest of it down here, but have it so that it's still overlapped. So I'm just gonna get sewing that, and then I will add the waistband. Alright, so now that that's done, here's the back of the skirt, and you can see that it overlaps, but still looks really nice and clean, so I can put some buttons and buttonholes for the closure in the back. For the waistband, I have this wide strip of fabric that I will fold in half lengthwise and stitch the raw edges right sides together to the waist of the skirt panels. And then I'll probably do some felling for the inside of the waistband just to clean it up a little bit. Then I will hem the bottom of the skirt and I'll be right back to you. I am now wearing the skirt. I've just pinned it closed because I haven't sewn the buttons there yet. The next thing you're going to want to do is cut 2 long strips of fabric that are long enough to go from the front of your waist and cross in the back. And I've made them long enough so that they overlap exactly with the waistband. I've got 2 of these, so now what I'm going to do is fold them in half long ways, sew along the long edge to make a long tube, then flip it right side out. Now I've just temporarily pinned these straps in place. Now I have this square of fabric, I've laid it over top, and I'm just going to trace about the shape that I want it to be. And now I'm going to cut that out. Alright, I got that. Now if you are bigger chested than me, you might want to make some darts. You can do that by taking a square of fabric, laying it over top of yourself and sort of pinning underneath your bust, sewing that in place. However, for me, I am an incredibly flat human being, so this will work just fine. Now I'm going to hem this piece and make these straps, and then I'm going to stitch this in between these. Hello, 'tis another day. Our Pinafore skirt is almost finished. I have attached all of the pieces for the detachable pinafore. I hemmed the skirt last night while watching the second Maleficent movie, which, let me tell you, was fabulous. I wanted to do the hem by hand because hand-sewn hems always just look a lot nicer and cleaner. Of course, on a skirt like this, there is a lot of hems, so it takes a very long time, so it's a wonderful thing to do while watching a movie. So at this point, the only things left that I need to do is sewing the buttons on and sewing the buttonholes and then ironing it. I have 4 of these white buttons and I'm going to sew them to the waistband, 2 on the front and 2 in the back, and then the buttonholes will be on the pinafore. I actually painted these buttons because I didn't have any that were large enough that were also white, excuse the paint all over my hands. So I painted them with a few coats of acrylic and then put a layer of varnish. All of this extra work just because I'm too lazy to go and buy some actual buttons. So I'm going to sew on the buttons and such, and then we'll have the reveal. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I'm using these vintage hooks and eyes that I found from the thrift store to do the closure for the back of the skirt.
When you wore a tulip, a sweet yellow tulip, and I wore a big red rose. When you caressed me, was then heaven blessed me, what a blessing, no one knows.
So here is the finished pinafore. I'm very happy with it. It's pretty much exactly how I wanted it to turn out, so super excited to wear this all the time. This was actually a very simple garment to make, even though it does have a lot of interest to it and a lot of elements. They were all very simple to do. If you're starting a vintage wardrobe yourself, I highly recommend finding or making a vintagey styled pinafore like this. Not only are pinafores themselves an adorable vintagey style garment, but if it is detachable like this one, then you can take off the pinafore section and just wear it as a skirt if you want. And with the extra fabric that I have from this project, I can make different pinafores that I can switch out for this one. I can make different styles of pinafores, make one with a sweetheart neckline, make some that's just the straps without the section in the middle. It's very versatile and there's so many things you can do with it and so many outfits you can make with it. You can wear basically anything under a pinafore and it looks awesome. This skirt is 4 panels, but usually I like to make skirts that have an odd number of panels because generally I haven't really wanted to have a seam right down the middle. But with this, because it is plaid, you can see how it's created like a nice symmetrical pattern. And so this looks, I think, really lovely with a seam right down the middle. But if you don't want the seam down the middle, you can do 5 smaller panels or 3 bigger panels. There's a lot of small things you can change and alter to make this garment match your style more. Quickly before I end the video, I'd like to mention that I have this email where you can send me strange vintage fashions previous to the 1970s preferably, and I can react to them in videos. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! My dog is freaking out. Hey girl, come on. Hello. You can do it. No.